sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and can even keep you from getting the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS. Listen, if you're like me, you hate doing admin crap. Number one, because you're not good at it. And number two, because you know it's taking you away from the stuff that actually makes you money. So why are you doing it? Do what I did. Go to worksby.com right now and let them pair you with a real executive assistant. Once I started working with Cheryl at Worksby, my income went up 40% in 1 month, and my working hours went from 70 down to 40. It's a game changer. Go to worksby.com right now, book a call, and tell them Walker sent you. If you do, you'll get 2 extra hours of service for free as a bonus. So if you're ready to finally stop doing the stuff you hate and focus on the stuff that makes you money, go to worksby.com right now. That's WORXBEE.com. Tell them Walker sent you, and you'll get those 2 free hours. Welcome to the No BS Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Walker McKay. Today, so glad you guys are listening. I've got one of my favorite people. Brian and I are doing some collaboration together. Brian Burkhart. He is founder and chief word guy at Square Planet Presentations. He's an Phoenix, Arizona firm dedicated to elevating people by helping individuals, teams, and enterprise clients improve their pitch game. He's been doing this for decades, literally. So I want you to listen today as Brian shares the art and science of telling better stories while doing presentations. So Brian, welcome to the No BS Podcast. I'm so glad you're here.
Walker, I could not tell you how excited I am when I looked at my schedule today that I was going to spend some time with you, my pal, my partner in crime. As I said, my brother from another mother. It's great to be here.
I met Brian about, a month ago.
Oh, longer than that.
Well, 2 months ago. And we started talking, and I was like, holy shit, we've got so much in common and so much we can share with each other. And anyway, we're working on some collaborative projects together. So anyway, I'm excited to introduce him to y'all because y'all will be hearing more from me and him and Casey Jones in the future. But so Brian, why don't you take a minute, if you will, or 2 minutes, and tell me a little bit how you got to where you are today as the president of Square, or the CEO and chief word guy at Square Planet.
You got it. I think the beginning of this story really starts when I was in 5th grade, for real. I was running for student council president. And my running mate, my buddy Jim Leonard, I was best man at his wedding.
Wow.
We were going to win this thing. I absolutely knew it. And the reason I knew it was because I gave a speech in front of the entire school. And in that moment, I knew the power of communication, Walker. I wasn't ever going to be the tallest, the best looking, the greatest athlete, the smartest, none of those things. But man, oh man, I knew the power of communication in that moment. And
so what was your platform in 5th grade being, running for was it student body president or your class president?
Student body president. I think it was probably like, more pizza and longer recess. It was probably not very deep if I had to guess.
Whatever it takes, man. You just got to make promises. You don't have to keep them. You just got to make promises, get elected.
We did win in a landslide, but it really was a seminal moment in my life. And I remember really thinking, okay, I can do this. I can be this guy. And then that just kind of led me down a long list of things, including I was a game show host at McDonald's Corporation for a while. I worked at Disney World down in Orlando. I drove the subs at 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I've done all kinds of crap.
Oh my God. All right, let me get back here to this game show host thing. Some of you guys know that this is like my dream job. I always wanted to be a game show host, and I wanted to be the next Richard Dawson on Family Feud. And they picked that other guy who's actually done very, very well. But you've actually been a game show host at McDonald's. You and I talked about this a little bit. Tell me what you were doing.
I actually did this job sort of as a beer and pizza money. It was like 4 or 5 times a month at night. And so it was in addition to my normal job.
How long ago was this?
Many moons, decades. I was in my early 20s. I'm now 51.
Okay.
And so it was at their international training center called Hamburger University.
At Northbrook.
In Oak Brook. You're close.
Oak Brook. Yeah.
And the show itself was called The Hot Hamburger. And all the questions, which were done in sort of a Family Feud style format.
Yeah.
We had a DJ and all the gear. I mean, it was like a show in a big theater. It was cool. But all the questions were things like, for real, how much time do fries spend in the deep fryer? And I don't know the answer, but that's the kind of question that they were. Yeah, it was pretty great. It was pretty great.
That's cool as hell. So you've had all these crazy, you drove the sub at 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea?
I did. That's a story of really, truly knowing how to stand out a little bit, which is clearly part of the equation for all salespeople.
Yep.
True story. I went to Indiana University, about 40,000 undergraduate students, so big school. Disney was looking for new cast members, people to, make burgers, sweep the parking lot,
Yep.
do things like the rides. And so they scoured the country, went to all these big schools.
Yep.
And they had a group interview.
Okay.
I didn't realize it when I signed up, but there were tables of 10 and multiple tables of 10 recruiters at these tables, and they're going around looking for an individual.
Right.
And so I realized that, and it kind of a magical moment. I don't know what got into me, but in my little suit and tie, I jump out of my seat when it was my turn, and I said to the recruiter, all these people are capable, but you will not forget this. I did a kickstand, put my head up against the wall, headstand kind of thing.
You did
And
not.
I sang the Mickey Mouse song, MICKYMOUSE, Mickey Mouse. And I got hired on the spot. There's supposed to be 3 levels of interviews. She was like, you're in, you're done, you're in attractions. Everyone else was going to sweep up garbage and work parking lots and fast food. I got a plum gig. And so, friends, contrast matters, certainly in your presentation, but definitely as part of the sales process.
And one of the first things I noticed about Brian was he wears a pocket square. If you're watching on video, you can see that he's got a cool orange pocket square. And I said, nice square. And I said, orange, I love that. And he said, I use orange a lot, right? It's on his cups, it's on his microphone, his cufflinks, everything's got a little dash of orange in it. So it makes it stand out. So usually, I'll just go back here for a second. Usually that guy who is showing out like that usually does pretty shitty in school. My guess is, were you an A student in school?
I was the conundrum of students from the standpoint of, I got lots of A's, but I also had a couple of not so great grades, never really D's or F's.
Yep.
But it was always the kind of thing where I just could give a shit.
Yeah.
I never applied myself. Even, and I got my degree from Indiana, Big Ten school. And it was like, I think I bought books the first semester of my freshman year. That was it. Then it's like,
shit.
So I actually look back on that, and I have a lot of real regret and pain. It was a big mess, big waste.
Yeah. Meaning that you wasted time going, or that when you were there, you should have studied more?
I should have studied far more. I really did not take advantage of all that was in front of me. I think I was just too immature, lost, and focused on girls and beer, which I can admit. I mean, I really can.
Yeah.
I ended up spending 6 years as a faculty member at Northwestern University. I'm now doing some work down here in Phoenix at Arizona State University. And so I now see the error of my ways with such clarity, Walker. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
But, at the time, I guess I was in the place I needed to be.
I had the same experience in college, except for I didn't really make A's and C's. I didn't make any A's. And I made a few grades worse than C's, but too, I'll go, when I went back for my 25th anniversary or 25th reunion or whatever, I realized at the time I was on the wagon. And so I go back to college. I spent 3 days. I wasn't drinking. And what I wanted to go do is visit my old professors. I was like, the young Walker would have beaten the shit out of the old Walker back in the day, but I loved it. I loved it. So tell me something. How'd you get into presentations? I know you knew about you learned from the public speaking, but how'd you get into presentations?
I was in the meeting business and really have been my whole career. That's kind of how I got connected at McDonald's.
What does that mean?
The production of large conferences and events is a many billion-dollar a year business.
Wow. Yeah.
So there's always people like me who are the producers, the behind the scenes guys, to make sure it all comes together. And really, a large meeting, a conference is just a series of presentations stacked together with some really good transitions, at least in theory. And so my job was always to help put words together, put ideas together, and really kind of compact, succinct, interesting, engaging ways. And that's really what it's always been. It looks different from time to time, but the real kind of key story to this was I was in San Diego at the very famous Del Coronado Hotel.
Yeah.
Chief medical officer for Stanford University Hospital, top doc at one of the top schools, was giving the keynote address. And we had been spending months in preparation of this event. It's multiple days, but this is the keynote. This is why we're there. And I am a worker, so I need not really be there for the content of it. And I'm in the front row. And the doc begins his presentation, and it is the most painful thing I've ever experienced. And if there's 10 things that you shouldn't do, he's on number 11, and I just can't take it anymore. And so I get out from my seat, and I'm walking back to the end of the ballroom.
You walked out on him.
I walked out on him, and I wasn't there for the content. I was there
of course. Yeah.
But what struck me was there were 3 attendees, people that paid to be there, took time away from loved ones, their work, etc., with lanyards on. They had their name tags on. And they chose to get out of their chairs, hop onto the floor and sleep through the presentation of the top doc at Stanford University. And right then and there, I said, I've got to do something about this. As a guy who puts these things on, if we're going to push the agenda about content and we throw his lame ass up there, we got to do something about it.
Yeah, we
failed.
failed.
Was the moment. Yep, it was a huge fail. That was the minute that Square Planet really kind of came to be.
So before you were just planning and helping choreograph the event, but at that point you said, shit, I got to help with content. Otherwise people are just pouring money down a hole.
It was essentially the one ingredient that was never thought through. We always knew how much coffee we needed for attendees, and there were plenty of sleeping rooms, and it always looked and sounded great. And we would say things like, please get your presentation in on time, which really meant your fucking PowerPoint, which is not a synonym for presentation.
No.
And content was the only thing left to chance. These people would get up on stage and it was just abysmal. And I said, enough. And so I looked inward and started thinking about who did I know that could actually make the change that I was looking for. And I quickly realized the answer was me.
Damn it,
and
it's
so
me.
I did a huge deep dive into the art and science of it, literally kind of taught myself the words of the ancient Greeks, all of the art of persuasion and rhetoric, and ultimately it became the substance for my whole business today. We still do meetings because they are presentations stacked together. They're now more virtual and hybrid, but at the core, it's about the content. Before it'd be like, you get the best audio visual. Well, that's a commodity. That's the easy stuff.
Correct.
Our stuff now is about substance, and it really makes a huge difference.
So the people leave the conference and say, holy shit, that was great. We got to go back.
That's exactly right. And what's interesting is that all of that work in the meetings world has led me really to salespeople. I've spent a ton of time working on things like sales kickoff meetings at the beginning and middle of the year. And I've realized that this messaging for salespeople, it's the one. Of all the stuff I get to work on, I mean, typically I'm in 3 industries. It seems like it's always disruptive tech, healthcare, and financial services. The salespeople here have big, complex sales, and it's tough stuff. They've got to simplify and engage. And they have been getting it wrong for so long that I said, okay, I'm going to help you. And so that's where I spend my time now.
So I love that. And it's a great story, and amazing that a guy who teaches people to tell better stories tells a great story, and I've bought in completely. So what is the biggest thing that people get wrong when they do a sales presentation? What do they screw up the most?
By far, this is easy. Ironically, I have a stat to back this up, but the biggest thing that people get wrong, certainly in sales presentations and in presentation world in general, is they're selfish. They make it all about themselves. Yeah, it's crazy. We hate selfish people. I want you to think about this in a second from this perspective. It's probably been a while since we've all been on an airplane, but we've all experienced, you've got your bag and you get to your seat and the overhead is already full.
Yep.
That's a horrible feeling.
Yes.
When it's time, eventually you find a spot, it gets worked out, but it's always uncomfortable. It's time to get off. We're deplaning. And you realize that some schmuck a seat away has taken way more than his fair share. He's got 3 bags and a coat up there, and of course, nothing by his feet. And we want to pummel this person.
Yes.
That's because that guy was selfish.
Yep.
If you start thinking about it from a presentation perspective, even things like this podcast, if I go too long, if I take time that's not mine, that's selfish. If I don't engage you with meaningful, thought through stories that are at least a little bit interesting and a lot informative, that's selfish. If I put visuals up that I say things like, if you could see this, I mean, what are you doing? That's selfish.
Shoot me. Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the list is long, but it's always the thing that people get wrong.
It comes back to that.
Yeah. Here's my stat for that, Walker. This is real. Gartner, the research firm.
Yeah.
they surveyed executive buyers, the people that we're selling to, the ones that sign the contracts, that give us the checks.
Yep.
74% of executive buyers surveyed by Gartner said that salespeople spend too much time focused on the product. They don't connect, they don't engage, they don't build rapport and relationship. They're too focused on facts. And yes, the facts matter. We need logic. But friends, we need emotion as well. You need both emotion and logic to create change. You need to tell better stories and not be a selfish bastard.
People that just share the facts. Facts are table stakes. I tell people that it's table stakes that you know what the fuck you're doing, that you're walking in the door and that you know what you're doing. People just assume that, or we should assume they assume that, but that makes you a commodity. What is it that separates you? And if we don't show people we're different, they can never tell that we're better. And so one of the ways we can do that, right, is telling better stories.
It's the best way. And really the thing about it is those stories that you should tell, they have to be rooted in your very well codified, deeply thought through core beliefs. Core beliefs is the center of all this. It's what my book is about. It's what really makes the best salespeople, the ones that we look up to and go, how did they do that? They know what they stand for. The best way I can describe that is if you're a firm selling, let's use something simple, a commodity of sorts. Let's say you're selling data migration. Okay. You take data that lives on a server and you're going to put it in the cloud. That is a commodity today.
Yeah, right. Yep.
If you're going to sell the notion of data migration, you need to pick what your core belief is. You might believe your core belief is that we're going to do it fastest, maybe cheapest, maybe the most precise.
Yep.
And there's going to be a buyer for all of those things. You can't be all of them. And so you better pick what your core belief is, something that's truly authentic to you. Mm-hmm. Let's use the notion of precision. Let's say you're doing data migration for banks. They absolutely want that to be precise. You can't get someone's financial info wrong. So right. I don't care if it's cheap. I don't care if it's fast. I care that it's right.
Right.
So precision is the core belief. Tell a story about things like the boat that got stuck in the Suez Canal. That's a story of imprecision. That's a deficit-based story, but it's about that core belief. Or tell a story about like a Japanese bullet train that goes 300 miles an hour and then comes to a perfect stop at the exact right spot at the exact moment that it was scheduled. That's a story of precision. And so now you're not leading with facts. You're actually leading with your belief in a story-focused approach that people actually remember and engage around.
So I'm hearing you say that their beliefs sounds almost like, and what you've said I like better, your core beliefs is like strategy as well.
Well, it really should be.
It should be, right? I mean, that should follow that, right? Is your strategy to be cheapest? Is your strategy to be the most expensive? Is your strategy to be how are you separating yourself from the rest?
There's one big part of that though. And this is the part that I think you and I are maybe the couple of few guys who fully, deeply understand this.
Yeah.
And really the idea is that you should not even think of trying to work with everyone. And as salespeople, we are internally optimistic, right? Everyone should buy our stuff. I think that's a wildly flawed goal. I think the goal should be to work with people that believe what you believe. And so if you believe in precision of your data migration, don't try selling to people that only want it to be cheap. You want to work with those that believe what you believe. And you're going to reduce a big chunk of the marketplace. But remember, the riches are made in the niches.
Niches, yeah.
And so you want to find those that get it the way that you get it. But if you don't know what you stand for, if you have no clue what you or your organization believe, then how can you find others? You can't give what you don't have. And so it's one of those kind of things that I think so many salespeople have good intentions. They just don't do this foundational work to get it right. And so they're out, spinning their wheels.
So I have my beliefs, but how do I find somebody else that has my beliefs? I mean, what do you do about that?
Well,
because they don't have their beliefs on their forehead any more than I do.
This is the fun part. Truthfully, it's even easier than ever before. But once you know the things you stand for, the things you believe in, which I will tell you is actually the hardest part by a lot. That 100%. Is really, truly 100% the hardest. But once you know, then you just have to scream it from the rooftops. And some of it's really simple. It's things like change the signature line on your email. Have a lot of social media stuff. Fix your website. Go talk to people. Do podcasts. Right. Like go tell people what you stand for, right? My core belief as both a founder, certainly, but definitely as a human first. And of course, then it mirrors into my company, is to elevate people. We believe in elevating people.
Mhm.
All the things I do, it's about helping people have better tools, resources, confidence, skill set, you name it. I'm going to elevate them as individuals. Everything I do is focused on that. But you know that in my life, my real world life, oh, hell yeah, I'm going to talk to the homeless guy. I'm going to have a conversation and say, are you all right, brother? You doing okay? And I'm going to make it my absolute mission in life that when I go to the dry cleaner and pick up my shirts, that clerk has a better day because I was there. Everything I do is about elevating people. I just sent a joke. It took me 10 minutes to tweak a joke to my buddy. It's his birthday today. And I sent this long, elaborate birthday joke because I want to elevate people. No one is going to do what I did. They're going to send text, happy birthday. Mine took 10 minutes.
Yep.
That's what elevating people is. It's my core belief, and it oozes out in my business and certainly in my personal life. That's the hard part. But once you do it, scream it. Once you know, scream it, and you'll find your people.
Brilliant. And I would say that you scream it by not screaming it, but you scream it just by living and being who you are, because it shows up. I mean, when I talk about Brian Burkhart, it does come from your pores, right? It is who you are. It's not some fake thing. I had a slight thing that came to mind that you were talking about, you're talking to other people, even that you can't help or that you can't blah, blah, blah. And I tell people that charge a lot of money for your business, charge a lot of money to the people that you are right in the sweet spot. Get plenty of money so that if you want to work with people that can't afford you, that's how you afford it. And you work with them for free. Right. So
yes. Amen.
And I think you're on the same page. I worked with a recruiting company for a while. They were clients of mine, and I found all these people in the recruiting company, and they were like, "Oh, that's this person. I like them so much, but they're not going to be able to get a job." And I said, "They don't have the skills to do what we do." And I said, "All right, so get some sales, close some stuff, and then come back to that person if you want to and say, let me help you with your resume. But if you're not willing to do that, then for God's sake, don't spend your time. You're supposed to be making money doing that."
Well,
anyway,
I've been saying for a long time, sales fixes everything, right? Get some revenue in the door. Sales fixes everything.
Yes.
For me, where I have done that, and it's been wildly enjoyable, but I also believe that it's really great batting practice. And so remember that there's a lot of take to the give. And it's things like right now, I'm working with this amazing college. It's called Illinois Institute of Technology. It's right by where the Chicago White Sox play baseball. Incredible school, but the vast majority of the students have English as a second language. Wow. But they're college kids. These are amazing people. And I'm working in their entrepreneurship program. So they're building businesses, ideas that they want to bring to life. And I'm helping them develop their pitch, their sales strategy, their communication strategy. And I'm doing it for like nothing. I mean, my hourly rate to them is like $1. I'd make more money at McDonald's flipping those burgers I learned about. But I don't care. It's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And I'm getting batting practice, right? So, keeping my skills sharp.
I absolutely love that. Tell me something. I know you've got some great stories about a presentation that's gone terribly wrong. Do you have one?
There's a bunch. I would say
and maybe one that you've gotten wrong. Have you ever had one that you've done terribly wrong?
Wow. Yeah, I had one. In fact, there's probably some people that are part of this. If anyone has been part of Sales Assembly, which is a really great organization.
Okay.
I had done a really nice lunch and learn in person with a bunch of people, went really, really well. And then I was invited to speak at their national conference, and it was just utterly awful. Everything was bad. The AV was bad. The MC was bad. The content was bad. The energy was bad. And it was my turn. And I was just bent at how awful everything was. And I was sort of mad at the organizers. And I told a story of a presentation I was doing where it was actually hilarious. The person that was supposed to go for 60 minutes went like 18 minutes. And I was literally in the men's room and they're calling my name, and I sort of zipped it up and wrapped it up, got on stage and realized that I had kind of gone a little quick in my zip it up, wrap it up, and had a big pee stain. And, I kind of told that story, but I was also like, that's how bad this thing is. Like, you guys are just, and I just was in a bad mental place. Yeah. That was a bad presentation. I did not do my job. I was selfish and made it about me. I forgot that really it was an amazing opportunity for me to spend my given time to talk to people that made a choice to listen to the stuff I was bringing to the party. That's an amazing opportunity. It's not a
Yeah.
task. I had the wrong
Yeah.
mindset. And that happens for a lot of presenters. They think of it the wrong way. And so I learned from that, realized that bringing gratitude to every opportunity like this, I'm super grateful for this opportunity. I mean, like, so excited, so happy to be here, genuinely.
Yeah,
And
no doubt.
I learned that lesson the hard way, and I'll never make it that mistake again.
That's really, really cool. Can I tell you a couple of things I've learned today I've just loved?
I
So
would love to hear some of these.
one of them is really to know and understand your core beliefs and identify those things and then let them ooze from you, right? And then the right people will be attracted, like like flies of shit. They'll be attracted to you, right? Because of what's coming from you, right? And that like attracts like. But to be certain about that. And number two, it's always important to know selfish is never the right answer. Selfish is never good in any situation that I can think of off the top of my head. Selfish is never the right way. And think about your audience first and what they've taken their time, either willfully or forcefully taken their time to listen to you. And so you owe it to them to give them your best and to give something that is valuable to them. And I think and then for God's sake, don't read your fucking slides. Oh. I know that's basic, but don't read your fucking slides. I sat through one of those the other day, and the guy took us through 20 slides, and they were filled with words each time. Don't read your fucking slides.
That's a selfish maneuver. He's somehow assuming that you're unable to read. Selfish.
The words were so small we couldn't read anyway, so he read them to us.
Yeah,
terrible.
I think that's one of those kind of things that, to me, I'm now to the point where I actually have a notion of a presentation revolution. When people do that, I want to raise my hand and say, "Sir," what I've realized that the easier thing to do is just get up and walk out.
Yeah, leave.
I just leave. Yeah.
The same thing happens. You don't look like quite as much of an asshole.
Exactly.
Quite as much. You made your point, but not quite as much of an asshole.
I want to do the first thing. I want to be the rabble rouser, but I'm actually too nice of a guy. I'm pretty nice.
No doubt. Hey, how would somebody find you? I'm sure there's some audience who want to know about your presentation stuff, how they get you involved in their company or in their meetings and stuff like that. How would somebody find you, Brian?
Well, there is nothing that I would like more than to talk to lots of people. And the easiest way is to just go to my company's main website, which is squareplanet.com. And that's kind of like round earth. Just go to squareplanet.com, all one word, and you can find us. Easy peasy.
What's Square Planet mean? I never asked you that before. What does it mean?
It's an actual term that comes from astrophysicists who, unlike most people, the scientific community, if they're stumped, they'll ask their colleagues for help. And that's what happened. There were all these weird, crazy computational, because astrophysicists is all done with math. And they found these anomalies they couldn't quite figure out. And ultimately what they realized was there were these unexplained gravitational forces that were so big, they were affecting both the orbits and the physical planets themselves in these very far off galaxy. And so what it really meant was that they were flattening the orbit. Here in Earth, we have an elliptical orbit. It was being flattened, and stuff like our planet, the poles, if you will, were being squished. Square planet. And that's the technical term. And so our whole notion was, if you're not providing enough oomph, if there's not enough gravity in your presentation, you need to change your orbit. You need some square planet.
I love that. You know, I got to tell you all, Brian is one of the most thoughtful, smart, fun people. I enjoy him thoroughly. And I encourage you, reach out to him if you want some help in the presentation area, or you want to help with your conference to make it better.
Don't forget to tell people how much I look like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I mean, it is crazy how many times I go through airports and people stop me and say, "Dwayne, The Rock."
Those of you that are watching this on video will know that is absolutely the case. So 100%. Brian's right on there. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode today, or guys and gals, hope you've enjoyed this episode today. I have had a lot of success in the past 6 or 8 months working with company founders, people that often come to me saying, I need to hire a salesperson. Can you help me? And while I can help them do that and may eventually help them do that, we got to begin with them. How do they understand a sales process? What are they following? How are they going to lead somebody to that process? We start talking about sales. We often end up working on all kinds of other things, including hiring and managing, that kind of stuff. But if you are somebody as a founder of a company and you're at that place right now where you say, I need to hire some salespeople, hey, Pat, how about pick up the phone and call me? 803-917-2817, 803-917-2817, or go to my website, walkermckay.com. Brian, thank you so much for being here. You're the freaking man. No BS Sales School, No BS Sales Team, you will hear from Brian and me a bunch in the future. So anyway, thank you so much for being a part of this today.
Thank you, brother. I deeply appreciate it. You be safe.
Will do.